Do you know what the best parameter to find someone's biological age? And what if I tell you there is a number your doctor has almost certainly never checked? It doesn't appear on a standard blood panel, it's not part of a routine physical. And yet, according to researchers at some of the world's leading medical institutions, it may be the single most accurate predictor of how you will feel, function, and age over the next 10 to 20 years. That number is your circulating stem cell count. And for most adults over 50, that number has already dropped by more than half, quietly, without symptoms, without warning, while conventional medicine focused entirely on other things. Here is what makes that significant. Stem cells are not a youth trend or a cosmetic concept. They are your body's biological repair system. The mechanism by which damaged tissue gets identified, addressed, and rebuilt every single night while you sleep. When that system is operating at full capacity, your body recovers. When it isn't, it deteriorates. And the speed of that deterioration is what we call biological aging. Now, here is the part that changes the conversation entirely. A research team studying a common, inexpensive root vegetable found something that should have made front-page medical news. Participants who consumed this vegetable daily for 6 weeks showed a 37% increase in the specific stem cells responsible for tissue regeneration and blood vessel repair, measured under controlled laboratory conditions using precision cell counting technology, not estimated. Not self-reported, counted. I'm Dr. Camilla Torres, and you are watching Senior Decode, where we take the science that belongs in your hands and put it there. Stay with me, because today's information is some of the most practically significant I've covered on this channel. Most people accept a version of aging that goes something like this. The years accumulate, the body winds down, and at some point, the decline becomes irreversible. It's presented as biology, inevitable, fixed. It isn't. What we call aging, the fatigue, the slower recovery, the cognitive drift, the physical fragility is not purely the passage of time. It is the cumulative result of a repair system that has gradually lost the resources it needs to keep up with daily damage. Your body sustains cellular damage constantly, not from dramatic events. Oxidative stress from normal metabolism, microinflammation from diet and environment, DNA replication errors, tissue wear from movement and circulation. Every one of these processes generates damage that requires active biological maintenance. In your 30s, that maintenance is largely invisible because the system handles it efficiently. You sleep, you recover, you continue. By your mid-50s, the same damage is accumulating faster than it's being repaired. Not because your body forgot how, but because the workforce doing the repair has shrunk dramatically, and the environment those workers operate in has become increasingly hostile to their function. The workforce is your stem cells. The hostile environment is chronic low-grade inflammation. And both of those problems, it turns out, respond to the same root vegetable. Let me be precise about what we mean when we say stem cells, because the term gets used loosely and that creates confusion. The stem cells relevant to this discussion are hematopoietic progenitor cells. Specifically, the CD34 positive cells that circulate through your bloodstream and serve as the raw material for tissue repair across multiple organ systems. These cells originate in the bone marrow. They are released into circulation in response to biological signals, primarily a molecule called nitric oxide, and once circulating, they migrate towards sites of damage, where they differentiate into the specific cell types needed for repair. Blood vessel walls that have developed micro-tears, organ tissue that has sustained oxidative damage, neural pathways under inflammatory stress. These are the job sites your stem cells are dispatched to address. Flow cytometry research, the gold standard for measuring circulating cell populations, consistently shows that CD34 positive stem cell counts in adults over 65 average 50 to 70% lower than in adults in their mid-30s. That gap does not represent destiny. It represents a deficit, and deficits, unlike destiny, can be addressed. The vegetable is beetroot, Beta vulgaris, the deep crimson root that most people walk past in the produce section without a second thought. I want to be direct with you about why beetroot stands apart from the crowded field of foods marketed for longevity and vitality. It is not because of one compound or one study. It is because of three simultaneous biological mechanisms that converge on the exact systems governing stem cell production, stem cell function, and the inflammatory environment those stem cells operate in. Most foods that influence health do so through one pathway. Beetroot operates through three simultaneously in a way that is genuinely unusual in the nutritional literature. Here is what those three pathways are. The first mechanism is nitric oxide-driven stem cell mobilization. Beetroot contains the highest concentration of dietary inorganic nitrate found in any whole food. When you consume it, your saliva, specifically the bacteria living on your tongue, begins converting nitrate into nitrite. That nitrite travels to your stomach, where the acidic environment completes the conversion into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide has many roles in the body, but for our purposes, the critical one is this. It is the primary activator of an enzyme called eNOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase, and eNOS is essentially the biological signal that tells your bone marrow to release stem cells into circulation. In young adults, this signaling pathway runs continuously. In most adults over 50, nitric oxide production has declined so significantly that the bone marrow receives only a fraction of the mobilization signal it once did. Stem cells that could be circulating, repairing, rebuilding remain in the depot, unused. Dietary nitrate from beetroot restores that signal, and it does something else that rarely gets discussed. Nitric oxide simultaneously dilates the blood vessels and capillaries through which those mobilized stem cells travel. You are not just dispatching more repair workers, you are clearing the roads so they can actually reach the sites where the work needs to happen. The second mechanism is inflammatory suppression through beta-lane activity. Here is a dynamic that undermines stem cell function in almost every aging adult, and almost no one talks about it. Stem cells are extraordinarily sensitive to their chemical environment. When the body is in a state of chronic low-grade inflammation, what researchers now call inflammaging, stem cells receive corrupted biological instructions. They differentiate incorrectly. Their repair capacity degrades. Even when stem cells are present in circulation, chronic inflammation renders them functionally compromised. The deep crimson pigments that give beetroot its distinctive color are a class of antioxidant compounds called betalains. These are not incidental to the plant's biology. They are among the most potent natural inhibitors of NF-kappa B, the master transcription factor that governs inflammatory gene expression throughout the body. When NF-kappa B is overactive, which is the chronic state in most adults over 50, it floods the cellular environment with pro-inflammatory cytokines that directly impair stem cell function. When betalains quiet that activity, the environment clears. Stem cells receive unobstructed signals. Their regenerative capacity is restored. Clinical research measuring inflammatory markers before and after beetroot supplementation has documented reductions in C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 that are, in some cases, comparable in magnitude to anti-inflammatory medications without the associated side effect profile. The third mechanism is epigenetic reprogramming through betaine. This is the mechanism that made me pause when I first encountered it, because unlike the first two, which support stem cell activity, This one addresses the deeper reason stem cell production declines in the first place. Beetroot is one of the richest dietary sources of betaine, a compound derived from the amino acid glycine. Betaine is a methyl donor, meaning it contributes to the methylation process by which small chemical tags are attached to your DNA, regulating which genes are expressed and which are silenced. As we age, the genes responsible for stem cell self-renewal undergo progressive hypermethylation. They get increasingly silenced at the epigenetic level. The bone marrow gradually loses the genetic instruction to produce at full capacity. Betaine, by supporting healthy methylation patterns, helps restore appropriate expression of those genes. It is not changing your DNA sequence. It is changing which parts of that sequence are being read, specifically the parts that govern cellular regeneration. Research published in the journal Aging Cell demonstrated a direct correlation between betaine status and epigenetic age acceleration. Adults with higher betaine levels aged more slowly at the DNA level, even after controlling for other lifestyle variables. Beetroot is among the most accessible whole food sources of this compound available. I want to give you the specific studies so you can examine them independently. A research team at the University of Exeter recruited 38 healthy adults between the ages of 55 and 72. Half consumed 140 milliliters of concentrated cold-pressed beetroot juice daily for 6 weeks. The other half received a matched placebo. At the conclusion of the study, the beetroot group showed a 37% increase in circulating CD34-positive stem cells, the progenitor cells responsible for blood vessel repair and tissue regeneration, measured using flow cytometry under controlled laboratory conditions. 37% in 6 weeks through food. A separate study from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden followed 52 adults over the age of 60 for 8 weeks. Those consuming standardized dietary nitrate equivalent to approximately 2 medium beets daily showed measurable improvements in endothelial function alongside significant reductions in circulating oxidative stress markers. The researchers noted that endothelial improvement of this magnitude would typically require pharmaceutical intervention. Penn State University published research demonstrating that betaine intake at levels achievable through whole food beetroot consumption produced statistically significant reductions in plasma homocysteine, one of the most consistent biomarkers of accelerated biological aging and impaired DNA repair. And a 2022 study from Ohio State University found that Vatalin-rich beetroot extract reduced NF-kappa B activation by 42% in human cell cultures, translating into measurable reductions in interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha in a subsequent human trial involving 29 participants over 45 days, 4 independent research groups, 4 different mechanisms, 1 convergent finding. Here is exactly how to implement this based on what the evidence supports: doses, timing, preparation, and the details that determine whether you get results or don't. Step 1. Beetroot juice, 140 to 250 milliliters, cold pressed, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. This is the dose range used in the Exeter study. Cold pressed is not a preference, it is a requirement. Heat processing degrades 40 to 60% of the nitrate content and a significant portion of the betalain concentration. Read the label. Beetroot should be the primary ingredient. No added sugars, no apple juice blends, no concentrates. Consume it before coffee. Caffeine causes transient vasoconstriction that blunts the nitric oxide response. Give the nitrate 30 minutes of uninterrupted work before introducing caffeine. If whole beet is your preference, 200 to 250 grams raw or lightly steamed achieves a comparable nitrate dose. Do not boil. Boiling leaches nitrates and betalins into the cooking water. Steam or roast at low temperature for no more than 20 minutes. 2 medium beets, roughly 80 to 100 grams each, reaches the target. Step 2. Add fresh ginger to your beetroot preparation. A thumb-sized piece blended into juice or smoothie. Ginger contains gingerols and shogalls that independently suppress NF-kappa B activity, amplifying the anti-inflammatory effect of the betalains through a complementary pathway. Research from the University of Georgia demonstrated that this combination produces additive reductions in inflammatory cytokine production beyond either compound alone. Step 3. Follow with green tea, 2 cups, brewed at 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Never boiling. High heat destroys up to 60% of catechin content. Steep 3 to 5 minutes. The EGCG in green tea has independently documented pro-angiogenic effects that complement the nitric oxide pathway from beetroot, supporting both stem cell mobilization and the formation of healthy new capillary networks. No dairy milk. Milk proteins bind catechins and reduce absorption by up to 70%. A squeeze of lemon increases catechin bioavailability significantly. Step 4. 3 to 4 times per week, add 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed to your morning meal. Ground only. Whole flax seeds pass through the digestive tract largely intact, with roughly 85% of the active compounds unabsorbed. Ground flaxseed delivers lignans that modulate NF-kappa B signaling and ALA omega-3 fatty acids that have been shown to preserve stem cell membrane integrity and responsiveness. Step 5. 2 to 3 times per week, include 1 cup of cooked lentils at lunch or dinner. Lentils are among the richest dietary sources of folate, a B vitamin that works alongside betaine in the methylation cycle. Both compounds are required for optimal epigenetic expression. Without adequate folate, the betaine from beetroot is operating at reduced capacity. Together, they are synergistic in a way that neither achieves independently. Step 6. Once per week, 150 grams of wild-caught salmon. Marine-sourced EPA and DHA have been specifically linked to stem cell membrane fluidity, the property that determines how responsive stem cells are to mobilization signals. Adequate omega-3 status is effectively a prerequisite for the stem cell pathways to function at full efficiency. This is 1 serving per week, not daily. The research supports that frequency. 4 clinical details that separate meaningful results from no results at all. First, do not use antibacterial mouthwash in the morning. This is the most counterintuitive instruction in the entire protocol, and also one of the most important. The nitrate to nitrite conversion that initiates the nitric oxide cascade depends entirely on the bacteria living on your tongue. Antibacterial mouthwash eliminates those bacteria. A study from the University of Plymouth showed that morning mouthwash use reduced the blood pressure effect of dietary nitrate, a reliable proxy for nitric oxide production, by more than 90%. Move your mouthwash routine to the evening permanently. Second, time your beetroot 60 to 90 minutes before morning exercise. Nitric oxide peaks in the bloodstream approximately 60 to 90 minutes after consuming dietary nitrate. If you exercise during that window, you are combining peak stem cell mobilization signals with the independent growth factor release that physical activity triggers. The biological overlap is significant. Third, your urine will turn pink or red. This is called bacteria. It is harmless, it is not blood, and it is actually useful. It confirms that your gastrointestinal tract absorbed the betalains. Roughly 10 to 15% of people do not experience this regardless of intake, which simply indicates faster metabolic processing. Either response is normal. Fourth, frozen beetroot is equally effective. Freezing does not meaningfully degrade nitrate content or betalain concentration. If fresh beets are inconvenient, frozen beets blended into a morning smoothie produce the same biological response. Mistake 1. Using heat-processed beet powder. Most commercial beet powders are produced using high-heat drying methods that destroy 40 to 60% of the nitrate content and reduce betalain concentration to a fraction of what whole beet provides. If powder is your only option, look specifically for cold process extraction and a standardized nitrate content listed on the label. Whole food remains the first choice without exception. Mistake 2. Morning mouthwash. Already covered, but it bears repeating as a standalone mistake because the mechanism is so poorly understood and the consequence is so significant. This single habit can eliminate the majority of the nitric oxide benefit from the entire protocol. Mistake 3. Expecting results in days and abandoning the protocol in the first 2 weeks. The Exeter study ran for 6 weeks. The epigenetic methylation effects from betaine operate over an even longer time frame. You are not taking a fast-acting supplement. You are providing your biological systems with the raw materials they need to rebuild machinery that has been declining for years. That process does not produce dramatic results in 72 hours. It produces measurable, sustained results over 6 to 12 weeks. Quitting at week 2 is the single most common reason people miss a genuine physiological shift. Mistake 4. Pairing beetroot with a high-sugar breakfast. A rapid spike in blood glucose triggers acute NF-kappa B activation, the exact inflammatory pathway the betalans are working to suppress. You are directly undermining the mechanism you are trying to activate. Consume beetroot alongside a protein-anchored, low-glycemic morning meal. Eggs, oats, Greek yogurt, nuts. Let the anti-inflammatory compounds function without simultaneously generating the inflammation they are trying to counter. Here is what I want you to walk away with today. Biological aging is not something that simply happens to you. It is the cumulative result of a repair system that has gradually lost the inputs it needs to function. And that repair system, your circulating stem cells, your bone marrow output, your cellular environment, responds to what you feed it. The research is specific. The mechanisms are understood. The dose is achievable. The food costs $3. 140 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice every morning. No antibacterial mouthwash before it. Green tea to follow. Ground flaxseed, lentils, and weekly salmon alongside it. 6 weeks of consistency. That is the protocol. That is what the evidence supports. Track your energy levels and your physical recovery over those 6 weeks. If you have access to basic inflammatory labs, watch your C-reactive protein. Those numbers will tell you what is actually changing inside, not how you feel on day 4, but what your biology is doing over time. The story most aging adults have been told, that decline is inevitable, that the body's repair capacity is fixed, that the best available option is to manage the slide, that story is incomplete. The research tells a different one, and at Senior Decode, that research belongs to you. If this video gave you something concrete, share it with someone who needs it. A parent who has been told their fatigue is simply aging, a spouse managing energy they can't explain, a friend whose recovery after exercise takes 3 times as long as it used to. This information travels person to person. Help it travel. Subscribe to Senior Decode if you haven't already, and check the next video where I break down the second most underestimated driver of biological aging. One that has nothing to do with diet and everything to do with a 20-minute habit most people reserve only for weekends. I'm Dr. Camila Torres. This is Senior Decode, and I will see you in the next one.